Hello and welcome to Story Time with Miss Pam at the Andes Public Library. It is Wednesday, September 23rd, and I hope you're having a great day. We're going to read some random stories. Today we're going to read a little bit about the Itsy Bitsy Spider, as told and illustrated by Iza Trapani and as sung by Miss Pam. And apples. We're going to learn about some apples. So we have a nonfiction book. Nonfiction, by the way, means that it's real, that it's factual, that it's scientific, that it's not a made-up story. So, text and pictures by Ken Robbins. And then last week at some point was National Pirate Day, or Talk Like a Pirate Day. So in honor of that, we're going to read Pirate Treasure Map, A Fairytale Adventure by Colin and Jacqui Hawkins. And you're going to see some familiar Brothers Grimm tales talked about in here as well. Okay, but let's start with something you're familiar with, and maybe you can sing along with me. How is that? Now, I'm also a Music Together teacher, and so in our bongos collection this fall, we are singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider. So let's do that, and then we're going to sing the book. Are you ready? The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again. But sometimes we have a teeny tiny spider. Can you sing in a teeny tiny spider voice? The teeny tiny spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the teeny tiny spider went up the spout again. Yay! And then, of course, there's those big hairy spiders that like to come out of the drain. The big hairy spider went up the water spout. Can you do that with me? Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the big hairy spider went up the spout again. Good job. Okay, enough silliness, Miss Pam. Let's read this version of the Itsy Bitsy Spider. Oh, and it's signed by the author. Look at that. The Itsy Bitsy Spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the spout again. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the kitchen wall. Swoosh went the fan and made the spider fall. Off went the fan, no longer did it blow, so the itsy bitsy spider back up the wall to go. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the yellow pail. In came a mouse and flicked her with his tail. Down fell the spider, the mouse ran out the door. Then the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the pail once more. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the rocking chair. Up jumped a cat and knocked her in the air. Meow! Down plopped the cat, and when he was asleep, the itsy bitsy spider back up the chair did creep. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the maple tree. She slipped on some dew and landed next to me. Out came the sun, and when the tree was dry, the itsy bitsy spider gave it one more try. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up without a stop. She spun a silky web right at the very top. She wove and she spun, and when her web was done, the itsy bitsy spider rested in the sun. Boy, that spider had a very busy day, didn't she? Okay, let's read about apples. Apples, we have apples everywhere on the trees, on the ground. The deer are eating apples. We are eating apples. I made some applesauce, and it was yummy. Okay, so an apple is a wonderful thing. A perfect handful of portable food wrapped in a package of its very own skin. Apples, of course, are a kind of fruit. They are round and shiny, delicious and sweet, crisp to the bite, and they grow on trees. People have been growing them for thousands of years. Apples can be red or yellow, or they can be green. Sometimes they can be all three. I know my granddaughter loves green apples for some reason. I like to make pie out of green apples. You can grow apple trees from apple seeds, but you never know what kind of apples will grow. That's why in most orchards, the apple trees aren't ever grown from seeds. Instead, a branch from a tree that makes a particular kind of apple is joined or grafted onto the trunk of a small apple tree that already has roots. The two grow together when they're planted in the ground, and the result is a tree that produces the same kind of apple year after year. I even have an apple tree that has two different kind of apples on it, believe it or not. Somebody had grafted it together, but they successfully grafted two completely different kinds of apples. It's crazy. In 10 years, the planted tree is big enough and ready to grow fruit. The growing season starts with pruning the trees, cutting away the dead branches. And usually you do that in the fall or the spring, but not too close to summer. In the spring, the trees in the apple orchards burst into bloom. Some have pink flowers and some have white. Soon the orchardist sets out hives of bees in the orchard. Some keep bees themselves. Others pay a beekeeper to bring them to the orchard when they are needed. The nectar in the flowers attracts the bees. The bees are brushed with pollen when they buzz around the blossoms, and they spread it to the next flower that they visit. That way the flowers are fertilized, and inside the flower the seeds are produced. The petals fall off the flower, and what's left, the ovary, then starts to swell. And that's the beginning of an apple to be. And inside it are tiny seeds. If they were ever planted one day, they would make new trees. It takes 10 to 20 weeks for the apples to reach full size and ripen. By August, the limbs of the tree are chock full of fruit. Eventually, it's harvest time to pick the apples before they fall to the ground and spoil. But you know, you can even find a lot of good apples on the ground if you look, so don't waste them, right? At some orchards, you can pick your own. Some apples will be squeezed for presses in apple juice and apple cider. This apple press is nearly 100 years old. We have an apple press in our area at the Hubbard farm, and it takes up a whole barn, and it's so cool. You take your apples, we usually bring about, 14, 15, 16 bushels, and we drop them off at the top, and it washes them and takes them on a conveyor belt and chops them up and washes them some more, and then they get spread out onto big sheets of canvas that cover a big bed like this, and they put 6 or 7 layers of the apples, and then they squish them down with a big huge press, and then you go downstairs and you can see the juice just coming down, and then you fill up your jugs at the bottom and you pack them in your car and you're ready to go. It's so cool. Anyway, and that press is, at least 150 years old, I would say. Some apples will be peeled and sliced and sugared and spiced and baked into a pie. I'm going to make a pie for my daughter's birthday. That's today, but we might not make it till this weekend. Some are fated to be cored and quartered and tossed into a pot to make applesauce. I already made that. I'm going to make some more too. And some will just be taken in the hand, perhaps rubbed on a shirt front for polish, and with a wonderful crisp and crunchy sound, munched all around and swallowed down. Just make sure that if you get your apples from an orchard or from a store and they're not organic and they use pesticides on them, to make sure you wash your apples first, because otherwise you're eating the pesticides, which is not so good for you. All right, so there's lots of ways to enjoy apples, and this doesn't have any pictures, so I'll just read it to you. There are other ways that we enjoy apples. We can eat them in strudel and cobblers and dumplings and fritters and baked in cakes. We spread them on bread as apple butter. We have them jellied and fried, sliced and dried. In addition to apple cider, there are apple juice and apple brandy. We cook with vinegar made from apples. Bobbing for apples is messy fun. And if there are still more ways that we use apples, not for eating, but in our speech. Men, we say, have Adam's apples. It's that funny lump in the front of their throats. Sometimes we're apple-cheeked when our faces are looking all red from the cold. Today when we say, you're the apple of my eye, it means you're something very special to me. And apple polishing is what we call the behavior of people who are always looking for favors. People say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. You know, that's not really true, but apples do make healthy food. And people say apples don't fall too far from the tree. They mean that children are bound to behave more or less as their parents do. What do you think? Could that be true? And people say, one bad apple spoils the rest. That is true. Just one wormy apple in a whole basket full, and pretty soon they're all no good. Sometimes they call a person a bad apple, and by that they mean he's not only evil, he makes others bad. Do you think one bad person can make others bad? I think we see a lot of that in our world today. Apples show up in history too, and in the stories that people told a long time ago. The most famous apple of all was the one forbidden to Adam and Eve. The story goes that when they ate the apple from the forbidden tree, they started all of the world's woes, because they took the apple of knowledge, and they had knowledge of all the bad as well as the good. Then there's the story about a Greek goddess named Eris. She was looking for trouble, so here's what she did. She got a golden apple and wrote on it, "For the most beautiful," and left it around where 3 other goddesses were bound to see it. You know how jealous goddesses can be. They found a young prince and demanded that he decide which one of them deserved to have the apple. He gave it to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, but the other 2 goddesses got really sore, so they went and started the Trojan War. Another Greek story concerns Atalanta. She promised to take for a mate any man she could not beat in a race. Now, that wasn't exactly fair, because she was the fastest runner anywhere, and Hippomenes loved her, but he didn't stand a chance. So he asked Aphrodite, the same goddess of love, to give him a hand. She gave him 3 golden apples, and during the race, whenever Atalanta got ahead, he would throw one her way. Atalanta stopped to grab each one. Now you tell me which runner won. In 1307, in Switzerland, William Tell, as a test of his skill, was forced to shoot with an arrow an apple off of his own son's head. It was a terrible risk to force him to take, a terrible price if he didn't succeed. He took his crossbow, and you can bet he aimed it carefully. He shot the apple, his son was saved, and he is a Swiss hero to this very day. And in the middle of the 19th century, there was Johnny Appleseed. That was the name given to John Chapman, who so believed in the goodness of apples that he traveled by foot all over the land, planting seeds of apple trees that he himself would never see. So, and here's a picture of some of the different kinds of apples that we have. There's many, many different kinds of apples now. Actually, one of my new favorites, which actually has been kind of created through breeding different kinds of trees together, is the new Honeycrisp apples. I think those are very delicious. So, now, Captain, we are going to give our dedication to pirates. So, on we go, by Mr. Colin Hawkins. Once upon a time, Jack Hubbard, his mom, old Mother Hubbard, and their dog Patch all lived together in the Dish and Spoon Inn, a small tavern on the busy harbor of Barnacle Bay. "I always wanted to have my own little place by the sea," said Mother Hubbard, "and all those gold sovereigns from the giant really came in handy." Jack was pleased that his mom was happy, but he longed for adventure. Then one day, dark and stormy night, the tavern door crashed open, and in strode Captain Horatio Hubbard. He was Jack's long-lost uncle who had set out many years before on his adventures across the seven seas aboard the good ship Goosey Gander. Avast and belay, I'm home, me hearties. That night, as Captain Hubbard chowed down his favorite grub of mac and cheese and swigged down tankards of dandelion and burdock, he told tales of hairy, scary adventures on the high seas, of witches, trolls, magic, and enchanted lands. Jack's eyes widened as his uncle spoke of a faraway island where a fabulous treasure lay hidden deep within the crumbling walls of an ancient tower. No one will ever find their way to this treasure without a very old and forgotten map. But look, me hearties, ere it be, and with a flourish out from under his hat, Captain Hubbard produced a tattered parchment. This be old Boney Rattle's map, and on the morning tide we sails to find the treasure, and we needs a cabin boy, so why don't ye join us, Jack? What do you say? Jack didn't need to be asked twice. Early the next morning he kissed his mom goodbye. Don't forget to brush your teeth, Jack. Bye, Mom. Full of excitement, Jack and Patch clambered aboard the Goosey Gander. They set sail in fine weather heading west. Then they steered northwest through the dangerous realm of the sea serpents. Jack soon had a taste for this adventurous life on the high seas. However, he was not so sure about some of the crew, who looked rather hairy, shifty, and sly, especially wicked Ed Wolfe, the first mate, a fearsome-looking character with an eye patch and a peg leg. Jack's unease was confirmed when late at night, through an open hatch, he heard furtive mumbling from below deck. He crept to the edge and peered down. There, huddled together, deep in muttered conversation, were wicked Ed Wolfe and his treacherous cronies. So 'tis agreed, grunted wicked Ed. At noon tomorrow we takes the ship. Then we takes the treasure map, and then we throws Captain Hubbard overboard and any other lubber who ain't with us. Aye, then we find the treasure, and we is rich. Har, har. Jack crept away. He had to warn Captain Hubbard. The next day, as they were heading north, around the ragged rocks, a great storm began to rage. The wind howled, and huge waves battered the ship from the side. "'Tis a fearsome storm when the north wind blows, Jack," yelled Captain Hubbard as he grappled with the ship's wheel. At that very moment, wicked Ed Wolfe and his mutinous gang appeared. "Aye, Captain, 'tis an ill wind, har har," snarled wicked Ed, pointing his pistol at Captain Hubbard. "I'm taking the Goosey, and I've yer and the treasure map that be hidden inside it. Was it to be, Captain? You're at, or you're dead. Ha ha! Neither, you harrier scoundrel. I'm ready for your evil game," roared Captain Hubbard as he let go of the ship's wheel. The Goosey Gander rolled hard to one side, sending huge waves crashing over the ship. Wicked Ed lost his balance and hit the deck. Then, boom! Wicked Ed's pistol fired and blew Captain Hubbard's hat clean off his head and into the wild sea below. "Lummy me hat!" shouted Captain Hubbard. "Arg, the treasure map is gorn!" shrieked wicked Ed as he struggled back onto his peg leg. Without a moment's thought, Jack and Patch dived over the side, and splash, splash, they plunged into the heaving waves. As Jack swam after the precious map, Captain Hubbard and his crew were locked in a ferocious battle with wicked Ed and his hairy gang. Within moments, the huge seas had swept Jack and Patch far away from the Goosey Gander. All seemed lost. But luckily, just in the nick of time, Jack, Patch, and the treasure map were rescued by an owl and a pussycat sailing by in a beautiful pea-green boat. A day later, they all landed on a beach where the bong tree grew. The owl and the pussycat were in search of the wood where the piggy wig stood. "It's just over there," said Jack, pointing the way on the map, and he waved his friends goodbye. Jack peered at the map again. "Look, Patch," he said. "The treasure lies far to the east, deep in the dark, dark wood. We go this way," so they hurried off. Jack and Patch had not gone far when they came to a cottage made of gingerbread and candy. By now they were hungry. This is good," said Jack with a giggle, munching on a large chunk of butterscotch. Once they were full of sweet treats, they scurried off again. Along the winding path, Jack and Patch bumped into two small children. "Hello, who are you?" asked Jack. "I'm Hansel," said the little boy. "And I'm Gretel," said the little girl. "We're lost and hungry, and we can't find our way home." "Well," said Jack, "if you're hungry, you should go down the hickety-pickety path to Gingerbread Cottage. It's made of real gingerbread and covered in candy. Look, it's right on my map, and just beyond the cottage is a straight and narrow path, which will lead you safely home." "Wow, candy, yippee!" shouted Hansel and Gretel, and off they ran. Jack and Patch pressed on through the woods towards the Banbury Cross. Hansel and Gretel followed Jack's directions and soon arrived at Gingerbread Cottage, where they gobbled jelly beans, barley sugar, sticky toffee, and fudge. Creak! The old door of the cottage opened slowly, and an old woman peered out.
"Hello, sweetie pie," she cooed at the startled children. "You must be very hungry. Come inside and let me fatten you up with a nice hot meal." Grasping Hansel and Gretel firmly, she pulled them into the cottage and bolted the door behind her. She gave the children each a big glass of milk and lots of pancakes filled with sugar, apples, and nuts. Hansel and Gretel ate and ate until they had both eaten so much they could hardly move. "I love children. The sweeter and fatter, the better," snickered the old woman. She was really a wicked witch. Are you recognizing some of these Brothers Grimm stories? The witch grabbed Hansel tightly with her wicked fingers and locked him in the cage. Then she turned to Gretel. "Hurry up, lazy bones. Fetch some water and cook a fine meal for your brother. I'm going to fatten him up for my supper." He'll be very tasty," she said, drooling and licking her lips. Poor Hansel and Gretel were very frightened, but there was nothing they could do. They were trapped. Every hour the wicked witch fed Hansel more food, and every hour she shrieked, "Hansel, let me feel your finger to see how fat and chubby you are getting." But each time clever Hansel pushed a chicken bone through the bar of the cage. The wicked witch had very poor eyesight and thought Hansel was getting thin and bony. She became really angry, but then decided to eat him anyway. "You'll make a nice pot roast," she cackled. Poor Gretel was sent to collect firewood from the forest so that the witch could heat up the oven. "Creep inside the oven, sweetie," cooed the wicked witch, "and see if it's hot enough." But Gretel knew that if she did, the witch would shut her in the oven and roast her for dinner too. "I can't get in," she whimpered. "You silly goose," hissed the wicked witch. "Look, this is how you do it," and she stuck her head into the big black oven. Quick as a flash, brave Gretel shoved the witch inside. "In you go," she yelled. With a mighty clang, the heavy iron door slammed shut, and Gretel fastened the bolt. "Let me out," screeched the wicked witch. "I'll be good." But Gretel knew better. Quickly she rescued Hansel from the cage, and they escaped into the woods. They soon found the path that they had seen on Jack's map, and they ran all the way home. Meanwhile, on their journey to find the treasure, Jack and Patch saw many a sight. They crept past Baby Bunting and Rockabye Bower. They found a little boy blue under a haystack fast asleep, and they met a crooked man by a crooked stile who gave them a crooked smile. Jack and Patch hopped over the stile and began to climb up Rumpelstiltskin Mountain. Halfway up they met 3 Billy Goats Gruff. "We're searching for greener pastures," said Big Billy, and together they all looked at Jack's map. "Look, there's greener pastures just beyond Troll's Bridge," exclaimed Middle Billy. "I'm going that way too," said Jack, so off they went down the mountain until they reached the bridge. "You first," said Jack politely. Little Billy Goat set over the bridge first, his little hooves going trip, 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 trap. But under the bridge lived a terrible troll with a huge appetite for goat. "Who's that trip-trapping over my bridge?" he roared when he popped out from underneath. "It's only me, Billy Goat Gruff," whimpered Little Billy. "I'm going to gobble you up," bellowed the terrible troll. "Oh, no, I'm much too small. I'm only a mouthful," cried Little Billy. "But my brother is much bigger than me, and he'll be along just a minute." "Okay, then, be off with you," growled the troll. So Little Billy trip-trapped safely over the bridge into the greener pastures on the other side. Next, Middle Billy set over the bridge, trip-trap, trip-trap. Out popped the troll. "Who's that trip-trapping over my bridge?" he yelled. "It's only me, Middle Billy Goat Gruff," bleated Middle Billy. "I'm going to gobble you up," roared the troll, "but I'm only a tiny bit bigger than my little brother. My big brother's really fat, and he'll be along in a minute." "Okay then, be off with you," snarled the troll as his tummy rumbled. "But I can't get away forever because I'm getting very hungry." So Middle Billy trip-trapped safely over the bridge into the greener pastures. Now it was time for Big Billy to sit over the bridge. Trip-trap, trip-trap, out popped the troll. "Who's that trip-trapping over my bridge?" he shrieked. "You're giving me a headache." "It's only me, Billy Goat Gruff," huffed Big Billy. "Then I'm going to gobble you up," roared terrible troll. "Oh, no, you're not," snorted Big Billy. He lowered his big horns, charged forward, and butted the troll very, very hard. Biff! The troll flew high into the air. "Ah!" he roared, and with a mighty splash the terrible troll landed in the river far below and was swept out to sea. Big Billy, Jack, and Patch all trip-trapped safely over the bridge into greener pastures on the other side. "Goodbye, Billy Goat," said Jack, and looking at the treasure map, he and Patch set off towards the dark, dark wood. At the end of the winding, twisting road, Jack met 3 little ghostesses sitting on postesses, eating buttered toastesses. "Woo!" they wailed. "Beware of dark, dark wood!" And then, poof, they disappeared. "Come on, Patch," called Jack. "We're almost there." In the dark, dark wood, Jack followed a dark, dark path. At the end of the dark, dark path, he saw a dark, dark tower. Inside the dark, dark tower, Jack climbed down dark, dark steps until he came to a dark, dark passage. and at the end of the dark, dark passage was a dark, dark door. Jack opened the dark, dark door. Creak. Beyond the dark, dark door was a dark, dark dungeon, and within the dark, dark dungeon was a dark, dark chest. Jack unlocked the dark, dark chest. Click, click, and inside the dark, dark chest they found treasure! And so, at the end of this dark, dark tale, they all lived happily ever after. So what happened to Captain Hubbard and Wicked Ed? Well, that's for another fairy tale. The end. All right, I hope you enjoyed our stories today, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Remember to keep reading books every day.